Before we complete our folk story scrolls today, there's a few things I wanted to show you. We'll start with the traditional stone ink pad. So traditionally I would take this stick piece, add some water to the stone, and then keep mixing it until you get that ink consistency from the stone. The ink of the stone would mix with the water, and that's how you would get your ink for your brush painting. So we're just using the pre-bottled Sumi ink instead, but this is the traditional way that they would use it with stone. You also have a traditional ink pad, and this is in the style of the Ming porcelain. This would be what you would use for the stamp. I also had a signature chop made with my name on it, and that's what I've stamped here. This is the old hieroglyphic form of my name, Ching Kai, and so that is carved in here. And it also has an ink pad. It's kind of dried out right now, so I use my own ink pad to stamp my signature. And you can see, I don't know if you can see well, but that time it didn't turn out as well as the first time. You really have to make sure you get enough ink on it and press it very hard. Here's the first stamp where the ink came out better, and then the second stamp I did not get enough ink on there. And these are some other eraser stamps that I've made in the past, and I think one is made by my son. These stamp pads do dry out, so you may have to get replacement ink pads. Oh, and that one I did upside down, so it should be that way. This one just has a star. And that one I did upside down too. And the reason I used the letter K on that one is because it kind of looks like the word da, or big, in Chinese. The materials that you're going to need for putting your scroll together is the manila paper, so you can do your final composition on that manila paper that's 12 by 18 size. So if you chose to illustrate a folk story or practice your plum blossoms, bamboo, or some other depiction or illustration, you can stamp that with your eraser stamp, and we're going to have that ready to put onto the scroll. Next, you may want to have the template that's on your Google Drive that shows the sizes and where to place all the different parts of the scroll, and have that nearby. And then the white banner paper that was rolled up, you want to unroll it, roll it, and lay it flat. And the size of that paper is 12 inches by 32 inches. And your manila paper will fit nicely right on the center of that banner paper. You want to have your ruler handy. You can take the fabric out of the Ziploc bag. You should have 2 pieces of fabric, and they are going to need to be 12 inches in width to fit onto the banner paper. The swatches you have are a little bit larger, so you have some extra material to work with. You can measure that to 12 inches and go ahead and cut it down with your scissors, or you can wait to cut it down later once you glue it onto the banner paper. So have those 2 pieces of material ready. You also need your 2 wooden dowel rods, your masking tape, ribbon, colored ribbon, and the twine, and that's for hanging up the scroll. And the colored ribbon, I think everybody received red ribbon, but it doesn't really matter what color, and that's up to you if you want to use a different color. Now I have my banner paper laid out with my ruler, and I forgot to mention you also need a pencil, and then you also need your Mod Podge and a sponge brush, and I put those on a paper plate and have a paper towel nearby to clean up any messes. So I want to measure 7 inches on both sides of my banner paper so that I can place my manila paper right in the center, and you can use your template as a guide. The fabric is going to be 4 inches on either side of the manila paper, and then you want to have 3 inches above that of the white banner paper. So that's going to be 7 inches on both sides. So I've gone ahead and measured that, but you can just use your ruler and measure 7 inches, and then use your pencil to mark the 7-inch mark, and then draw a straight line at the 7-inch marks and do that on both sides of the banner paper. 7 inches by 7 inches. Then once you've done that, you can place your paper, and it should fit exactly in the center where those lines are, so that you have 7 inches of banner paper on both sides. So then I'm going to take my Mod Podge glue, and I want to brush the glue evenly. And you can either put the glue right on the manila paper or onto the banner paper. And the sponge brush helps you to ensure that you lay down an even layer of glue. If you don't, then it's going to be have creases once you lay the manila paper down over it. So I should have laid some newspaper down underneath. I'm probably going to get some glue on the table, so we'll make sure to clean that up. I'm going to try to work fairly quickly here because the glue will dry quickly, and I want to lay down that manila paper before it dries up. I've got a lot of area to cover here. Alright, so I've got a pretty good layer of glue here that's evenly distributed. You can use regular glue too, but since we've got the Mod Podge, I'm going to use that, and then match up the manila paper to place it right on the lines. I'm trying to do it a little bit at a time so there's no crinkles. Try to lay it down as smoothly as I can. And so this is a really tricky part because it's really easy to get air pockets in there. Do it from one side to the next and smooth that out. And if there's some air pockets, I'm going to carefully lift it up and try to get rid of those air pockets. So don't press it all the way down until you're sure you got all those air pockets out. And then if you notice that I'm not exactly on the edge here, I'm a little bit off, and that's okay. I can cut off any excesses like that when I'm done. So when I cut the banner paper down, it may not be exact, so there may be a little bit, 1/4 inch or so off. I can cut off that excess. The next step though, I'm going to cut that off later, is I can put the fabric down. So if you look on your template, the fabric goes right above and below the manila paper. So now take your 2 pieces of fabric, and one's going to go on each side. So I can take my Mod Podge again, and this time I am going to put the glue on the back of my fabric. And the Mod Podge glue works on fabric, so it works on all kinds of materials. It works nicely on fabric and paper. And you can cut your fabric down to 12 inches first. I'm going to cut all my excess fabric and paper after I glue it down. I'm trying to put it right on the edge, and if you have a little bit of white showing on the edge there, it's okay because we're going to use ribbon to cover that up. And then if there's a little bit that I didn't get, I can add glue here. Okay, so we can then take the wooden dowel rod, and I'm going to use my masking tape. So this is going to help the scroll to roll up. So you just want to put a piece of it onto the wooden dowel rod, then lay it on the edge of the banner paper and tape it on there. And what I'm going to do is lift up my paper and put a part of it onto my tape. Okay, so I've just put this masking tape down onto the back of this banner paper, and I'm going to roll the tape onto the wooden dowel rod. And then I'm going to add, because I didn't get tape on the end, so I'm going to add some tape. So I'm basically just covering that wooden dowel rod up with the masking tape so that I can attach it to my banner paper. And now that it's attached, I can roll the paper over the wooden dowel rod. And I actually should have done this before I glued the fabric on, and I think I'm okay that I can just lift this fabric up. So don't do what I did. I'll put the wooden dowel rod on first, then we can glue the fabric right over the wooden dowel. So now I'm going to take my Mod Podge, and I'm just going to lay a piece of paper towel under here because I'm going to put some glue under it. You could put newspaper too. And now I'm going to brush on my Mod Podge to cover the wooden dowel so that I can cover it with the fabric to hide the paper color. So that looks a lot better now with the fabric covering the wooden dowel. And then I'm going to do the other side, and I'll cut off the excess later. So this time I'm going to put the wooden dowel on first and then glue the fabric down over it. So first I'm going to tape the wooden dowel on, and I'm just going to start with a long piece of tape, and it's actually, I think it's going to be easier if I put the tape on first, and I could flip this over and then put the tape on. That would probably be easier. Then I'm going to put my wooden dowel right at the edge of the paper and just roll that tape right on. Then I can roll the wooden dowel just about where the fabric is. Okay, then I'm going to move the fabric, and I'm going to mark where I want it to end, just with my pencil, because I want to come back in and put some more tape on it to secure. So I'm going to roll it where that pencil mark is, because I want to make sure I've got enough fabric to cover it. And then I'm just going to secure the tape right over it. And you don't have to tape it all the way since we're going to glue the fabric over it. So I'm just going to glue the middle part. Then I can glue the fabric over it. And just put the glue right over the tape and then right over the dowel. And then before the glue dries, I'm going to put the fabric over it and just wrap that fabric right over the dowel. And I can see I need some more glue back here. Okay, now I've got the fabric on both sides. Now I want to add my ribbon. And this ribbon is pretty wide, so it's pretty generous so that you can cover up any white spots. And you can measure it to 12 inches. I'm just going to go ahead and eyeball it here and cut it. And so I'm going to go back to my Mod Podge, and I'm just going to put the glue right on the ribbon. And just place the ribbon right in the center over it. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to mark it with my pencil this time before I cut it. Or you could measure it with a ruler and then cut it. Make sure you've got a good layer of glue on it. And I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and trim off any excess fabric and paper, then turn it over and tie the string to the back. I've turned my scroll so that I can work with the fabric at the bottom, and I use my pencil just to draw a line to where I want to cut it, just following the line of the banner paper. And now I am going to trim it. And now I'm going to turn it over so I can trim the other side. And now I'm going to trim that excess banner paper. And I want to trim my fabric just a little bit more so that it matches my manila paper. And I'm just going to keep on trimming. Do another trim down here. And I'm also going to do a little trim here. I may have to add a little bit more glue. And I'm going to clean up my mess here, and then I am ready to flip it over and attach my string so you could hang up the banner. So you want to take your twine and measure about 18 inches or so. You can use your ruler to measure. It's about 12. So it can be over 18 or approximate. And this is the top of my scroll, and I'm just going to tape it. And now my scroll is complete and ready to be hung up. I've added it to my collection of scrolls that I have hanging on my door here. This one is one that actually my mom made, so I got the idea from her. And that's the story of a donkey. This is a student one. This is one about a rabbit. Some of these, this was my sample of the story of the donkey and the boy. You can see my stamp here, my signature. And I use washi tape, in this case, and paper instead of fabric. And there's another student sample. This is the one about the city wall. And then here's the one that we did today with the plum blossom branch. So I can't wait to see your scroll and hear your story behind it.